Hey there folks, welcome to another Train Sim World video. Outright, I'm just gonna say it, this is the best damn thing to ever grace us within the realm of Train Sim World. Hands down. I've been playing around with this for many hours since it released yesterday, the 26th of November 2024, of course, and it is fantastic. You can go ahead and if you're wondering whether or not you should pick this up, you can go ahead and stop watching the video right now and go and buy it because it's fantastic. But if you want to learn more about the route itself and see some things and whatnot, that's what this is all about. It's not going to be the typical kind of look that I do on a lot of train sim DLCs, because if I were to do it in that manner, this would take nearly a decade because there is a ton going on with this add-on. It is insane. So this comes from Just Trains, a third-party developer for Train Sim World now, a long-time third-party developer for Train Sim Classic, which I have many of their wares from Train Sim Classic. And this is it. This is the tippy top. This is the top of the mountain, the pinnacle of anything in Train Sim World right now, as far as I'm concerned. And it comes on the heels of their other fantastic add-on, which was the Blackpool Branches, which kind of touches right there on Preston, which this goes from Preston to Carlisle, so it kind of all mixes, you know, it stirs all together, same kind of era, time period. You'll see a lot of the layered rolling stock if you've got the DLCs, so on and so forth. But another good one from Just Trains. They are killing it. Cooking very hard. So this is set in the late 80s, featuring 90 plus miles, and of course the luscious electric monster built by BREL, the class 87, which we're in now, which is British Electrics, man. They get me all hot and bothered. They always have. When I started playing Train Sim back in the day, sad to say, then again not sad to say, I started with a lot of British content for Train Sim Classic. So what is it? Well, this instance of the West Coast Mainline over Shap runs from Preston to Carlisle, set in the 80s, including numerous stations, signal boxes, depots, industries, the Morecambe branch, neutral sections, and likely the largest collection of custom assets from Just Trains or Train Sim World content, period. A ton of love, care, compassion, whatever you want to call it, went into this route, as it obviously did with Blackpool Branches, their previous add-on for Train Sim World. They, again, being Just Trains, a third-party company. They have their own website. They've been making stuff for ages. They've even got a sister company called Just Flight that makes stuff for flight simulators. They are well established, and it shows. Like I said, their stuff for Train Sim Classic is phenomenal, especially the route and the route making abilities that they have. And this is no different in this instance. It's like seeing that stuff from Train Sim Classic. And if you're not from Train Sim Classic or you haven't really seen much about it, it might be a bit hard to understand, but that, even that being said, this is still, by and large, the best thing you can get in Train Sim World right now, and I would 1010% recommend it at full price. It'll eventually be on sale, just like Blackpool Branches is currently, for about half off. But God, I paid $45 for this thing. I had some Just Train bucks that I had on their website, because you can actually buy it on their website or Steam if you like, but you accrue points on their website. So I had like $5 or $6 saved up, so I paid about $39 US dollars. Anything gaming, I can't think of anything that's been worthwhile. But anyway, enough verbal diarrhea and vomit. Getting ahead of myself here. There's just so much to go over with this route. It is absolutely insane. I know there's a million other videos and tons of other content out there. So first of all, if you're new to the channel, welcome. This is a little bit different than how I normally look at stuff like this, but I'd like to preface with their manual. 128 pages. Every single thing you need to know about this route, the era, the line, the stations, the industries, the stock, you name it. It is all here. Also down near the very bottom, we'll sweep down here. If you have, so this is your layering. So the timetable, stuff you'll see, other trains you'll see on the main line and layman's. Basically, if you have all these add-ons or any of these add-ons, this is what will appear as well. I've got most of these. I do not have them installed for gigabyte reasons, but I'm thinking about installing them just for this route alone. But if you have, this is all stuff that adds Tees Valley with the Class 37, West Cornwall with Sea Cow and Turbots, Spirit of Steam. You can add the Flying Scotsman, the Peak, the 142, the Pacer that came with Blackpool branches, Class 31, the Chopper 27. Get to the chopper. The Class 40. You name it. It is insane. This is all what can be layered on. So extra stuff you can see, of course, if you have this. And again, if you don't have this, like the video, the footage we're about to take a peek at here, all I've got is the base add-on. So it's Class 87. You're going to get Mark 1s, Mark 3s, some freight stuff, containers, steel. You're going to get steel in ingots, rolls, all kinds of stuff, flats. So it's multiple things, just like the containers. Even all the Mark 1s have different liveries. You're going to get BR Blue and Inner City on the 87 liveries. The Class 47 in like 50 liveries. The Class 08 in like 7,428 liveries. We can actually just go up and show you real quick so we don't have to look at them in the game here in a second. Just condense time. There's your flats. There's all your coaches, different types of coaches. They redid the interiors on some of these. A lot of it is new overall. I think they updated some texturing. They updated the guard mode if you're into that. So the tickets are, they actually look like tickets from the era, which is kind of neat. I'm not really into the guard mode thing. Big update on the 101. We'll get into that at the very end of the video. I've always really liked the 101, and they just fixed the shit out of it. We'll say it was fun to begin with. Now it's damn near amazing. But did I already pass it? So here's the 08s, all the different 08 liveries you'll get. TMD, Type D, this heavy weathered one, which looks pretty epic. Type C, another Type C, another blue, Type A, or blue Type A and B and C. So you're going to get a ton of those. And then is this the 47 or the 87 right here? Keep zooming up. Yes. So this is the 47. You're going to get all these liveries with the 47 as well. This is all included by default. So, I mean, even if you don't have layering, you're still going to see plenty of stuff out on the line traversing the map. And then, of course, the 87 as well. So a huge manual. I friggin' love manuals. You always see kind of ridiculous questions. How do you make the train go? In various forums and discords. It's like, for the love of Christ, look at the manual. This is what it is for right here. Massive manual. I'll link down below where you can find this manual if you want to take a look at it for yourself. And where to find this add-on, whether you want to get it at Steam, on the Steam store, or their website. Now, of course, this is, this can be had off the Epic store. You can have it on, PlayStation, Xbox, all that good stuff. It should be, offered everywhere. I mean, this manual is huge. You could make a whole freaking video about the manual. There's your 287s. Anyway, let's get in it. All right, this is about normally where I would say this is the bread and butter of the add-on, but it is not. It is nice. This is a Class 87, but the 87 is just as nice as the route itself, which is pretty rare for anything within Train Sim World. But here we're just going to take a peek around this thing. But the Class 87 was designed and built by Brel, or British Rail Engineering Limited, during the mid-70s at 36 units, hauling passenger and freight on the West Coast Mainline. Of course, electrified portions. Now, this thing is highly detailed. The model looks fantastic. The texturing looks great. It looks like a Class 87, although I'm a bit partial to the 86 just because I like the the tri-window split instead of the dual window split. But you can actually go in the engine or control compartment. There's plenty of switches to flick. You could essentially do a cold and dark start, but the way Train Sim World works, unless it's scripted in the scenario or something like that, it's not really ever going to be a thing unless you want to shut it down and then start it back up yourself. You can turn off certain traction motors, obviously, for those. It is a Bobo axle or bogie, and there's all kinds of different things you can do. It looks fantastic in here. You got corridor lights all throughout, windows look out or in from the outside, applicable stickers and details and all kinds of things all within here where necessary. And it's also got a toilet. Yes, I know, that's very exciting for a lot of trained simmers because, well, it's never really existed in many trained sims for whatever reason. But alas, here it is. It's not a shitter, it's a pisser. You can pee in it. There's even pee stains on the floor and on the side. So that's there, and it's interesting. The control stand looks fantastic. It's weathered, but it's still got a metallic kind of sheen or look to it. You can actually raise the seats up and down, which is always a very cool thing that I like to see with locomotives within Train Sim World. It's kind of rare. Here is your AWS switches. You, of course, select those as part of the safety system on the network. That rings a bell that lets you know if you need to comply with a yellow or a red or speed reduction or something like that up the line. But you actually control that from here by the sound. And the sunflower dial, which you'll need to clear. You can hear the engine loading up, the blowers. The thing is coming to life. You've got plenty of switches up here as well. You've got your marker lights, your headlights. The headlight itself, the one in the middle, goes per the direction that you have your handle or reverser. So when it goes into forwards, the headlight actually illuminates. You've got your train heating and your train line indicators there as well, letting you know you've got train heat and you've got power from the overhead line equipment. The 4 gauges in the middle are all about your tap changer, and that's what makes this thing very interesting. Is it's an electric locomotive and it's a tap changer. It's not a one and done. It's not 4 notches. It's not 6 notches. It's not 8. You can actually grab as much, well, within reason, or as little power from the overhead line as necessary, and we'll kind of go over that here shortly. You can mess with the blinds. You can open doors, open the windows. Take a brief look at the Mark 1s and mostly 3s here, which come in many different liveries. You've got your coach or your guard car. A lot of those were retextured, if I'm not mistaken. The insides were changed as well, so certain fabrics and textures are different all within the coaches. And each one of these Class 87s has its own applicable nameplate. I was playing with one yesterday. I think it was Lord Nelson. I think this one's called like Velocity or something like that. There was one I saw the other day, or yesterday actually, called City of Glasgow, I think. There's your guard buzzer right there as well, letting them know that it's, ready to take flight on the rails as we depart here. But this is just a quick little run from the upper part of the route in Carlisle to Penrith, which is right down the line, well before Shap itself. But operating this thing is very nice. Now, I'm more used to this thing within Train Sim Classic, and for those that don't know anything about Train Sim Classic, this means nothing to you, but I feel like in this instance in Train Sim World, it actually feels a bit better. I don't know if that's got something to do with the coaches or if it's just new. It's, it's newly scripted, so different types of physics and things like that within the simulgraph within Train Sim World. But it feels a lot nicer to control in this than Train Sim Classic. Now, the Class 87 Enhancement Pack for Train Sim Classic isn't too old. It's only a couple of years old. I think the 86 was much older. I might have them backwards, but I pretty much had everything from Armstrong Powerhouse that is the fine purveyor of all things British rail. Armstrong Powerhouse actually provided the sounds for this locomotive. And nice sounds it does have, indeed. You can hear the rails squeal, going over joints, switches, things like that. The hum of the wheels themselves, or the bogies, or the axles. The AWS sound, pretty much all of it. It sounds pretty much like it should. The only kind of qualm I have with the sounds overall are the horn. I feel like the horn high and low are just a bit weak. They sound too synthesized to a degree and not as natural. I feel like they definitely sounded better in Train Sim Classic, as do a lot of sounds. I mean, they are 2 totally different games. But operating this thing is pretty fun, and it can get up to speed fairly quick. You've also got to plan your speeds well in advance, whether you're going uphill or downhill, because when you get near the summit itself at Shap, You know, you've got several miles of an incline or decline, depending on whether whether you're going north or south, and you'll have to apply power and hold it in certain instances, or just be very careful with your power application. There was a neutral section. You heard the power kind of just dissipate or disappear or vanish. That is your neutral section, which is really cool. It's a feature of this route. There are numerous neutral sections, and it's fairly simple. So, don't rely on this video, obviously not for anything tutorial-wise, certainly, because there are tutorials within the game that you can, run to have a good understanding of how to operate this thing. Not only that, but the 128-page freaking manual that I showed a second ago, you can just revert to that and learn how to operate this thing. And once you figure it out, I already kind of know from Train Sim Classic and operating this thing, so it's not tough at all. You get the hang of it quite quick, and it's something that keeps you busy, unlike most locomotives and things within Train Sim World, especially where you kind of put it in a gear or a notch and then you read a book. You're just kind of bored from there on out. With the Class 87, that is not the case. You are constantly pulling or decreasing power from the overhead line, to manage your speed in this thing. I think it's got a top speed of 110 in some portions of the route. Your average is going to be between 80 and 100. If you can make it to 110, a lot of these trains are fairly large. They have very many coaches in tow, but I think this thing has about 5,000 horsepower rated, so it can handle it just fine. The suspension effects are cool as hell, as you can see the thing bouncing up and down. This thing is just an absolute joy to operate within Train Sim World. Now, I haven't really been playing much Train Sim World over the last few years, just because, as North American stuff, we kind of always get the shaft with quality content. Now, to be fair, as of late, with the Metrolink and MBTA stuff, that stock was actually pretty decent, but the routes themselves are still very, very lacking. This is not the case here. Here you get a fan-damn-tastic locomotive itself, rolling stock, and the route just looks 100% custom, as JT, Just Trains for short, does it, and how they have done it, for Train Sim Classic for very many years. So this is just an enjoyable thing. Like most stuff in Train Sim World, I'll play it once, twice. I've probably already played close to 6 hours of this straight between yesterday and today after purchasing this. And again, I cannot recommend it enough. I have it set to kind of an early fall or early autumn here, and the colors look appropriate. They're not overly saturated or crazy looking. It just looks really, really nice. They did a fantastic job with the vegetation or the flora itself, and mixing different types of bushes, having grass right up to the right-of-way of the tracks themselves. It just looks really nice. This is easily the best looking route within Train Sim World as of speaking, November 27th, 2024. This here is Preston. This is the southernmost portion of the route where you'll start. I can think of it like a terminus or starting point for the route itself. But Preston's nearly about halfway up the West Coast Mainline between London and Glasgow. The station here was built in 1880, and they really got the look and the era and the feel of this place. I mean, it all just ties together very, very nicely. It's not too clean. It looks like a lived-in area. It looks organic. The ads, except for that one right there, that's two of your developers on that house there. The 1970s and 80s cars, buses, vehicles, posters, everything. It just ties so well. Still at Preston Station, we're kind of looking due west at the moment. That is the cathedral off in the distance, as we have an 87 inbound running into the station, and it's a pretty busy area when you hit it at the right time in the timetable. You'll see a lot coming and going, but man, this just looks so good. And just up the line, a bit north out of Preston here at this junction, this is the St. Walburg's Church or Cathedral, Roman Catholic, built in the 19th century with, if I am not totally mistaken, the tallest spire in all of England in any parish instance anyway, however that works over there. But again, it looks incredible. They hit the era very, very well, and it just all ties together. The general ambience of the route overall is insane. You'll have sheep, cattle, farms, birds, dogs barking, everything, you name it. There are ambient sounds and little things going on left, right, and center. We come along to another prominent piece of scenery here. We are just south of Lancaster now. This is the Royal Albert Hospital, built 1870 and home to the children and later adults with learning disabilities and things of that nature. This is just one of many major structures along the route. I'm only going to show but a fraction of what there is total. We now made it to Lancaster Station with an 87 headed southbound to London. This is Lancaster, or Lancaster, however the hell you want to say it, in operation since 1846, remodeled and added on to numerous times. A lot of prominent structures here as well. I mean, the stonework, the kind of moss and the algae and all that on all the stone and the cement everywhere. It is just oozing with detail. Lancaster Station, that is the AI itself blowing the horn, and that is Lancaster Castle, medieval castle, later a prison built in the 11th century. Moving just north out of the station now, still Lancaster, north of the castle we just saw. This is the River Loon, which essentially runs from New Biggin up to the northeast to kind of the Irish Sea or the bay that we're going to be kind of going near momentarily. But the River Loon running here before us, and the old gasworks there in the distance. You can see the castle and cathedral. And holy crap, look at the distant scenery. That was one of the big things I was worried about with this route being 90 miles and so much detail extending pretty much as far as you can see trackside. We have now hustled up the line north a bit more. This is Hest Bank, a tiny hamlet. You can see there the old signal box, the Hest Bank level crossing frame, and the crossing guards as well. There's the old station just off camera there. But this is sat on Morecambe Bay, where the West Coast Mainline basically brushes as close to the sea as it can possibly get, the Irish Sea, of course. And it's the site of the old Lancaster, sorry, the area is Lancaster and Carlisle Railway Station, which was closed in 1969. And just, again, the scenery. Nothing worth much noting here, scenery-wise, except just the scenery in general. The rolling hills as you skirt the Lake District, the river down below, the grass all the way on the river bank, the fields, the farms, the mountains, insane. This is the summit itself at Shap, nearly 1,000 feet above sea level, the second highest point on the West Coast Mainline. Also featuring the granite quarry, which you can kind of just see in the distance there. Really fantastic scenery all around. A little bit further to the north from the summit itself, heading towards Penrith. This is Hardendale Quarry, another mine in the area. A lot of mountains, a lot of stone to mine, things like that, quarries. But this was primarily limestone, and this is where you can use the Class 08 that is included within the route itself by default. All right, we're obviously not stopping at every station along the line, but this is another notable station. This is Penrith, getting very close to Carlisle now. A station built for the Lancaster and Carlisle Railway, like a lot of this line, 1846, which sits basically on the site, or is part of the site, of medieval ruins of a castle dating back to the 14th century as a defense for the evil Scottish. Here we are just about at the tippy top. This is Carlisle as we take a peek around, and my God, the scenery with this route does not stop. 100 miles south of Glasgow sits Carlisle, station built mid-1800s, also on the site of the Carlisle Citadel, built during Henry VIII's reign circa 1541. We've made it to the very tippy top just outside north of Carlisle. This is Kingmore Depot and Yard, maintenance depot for the DMUs you see there, and a freight yard in the distance as well. Now, another neat feature as part of this route is the Morecambe branch. It is a non-electrified portion of the route that you can run the Class 101 that comes with the route itself, the add-on West Coast Mainline over Shap. And the Class 101 obviously is a diesel mechanical unit built by Metcam in the mid to late 50s in sets of basically 2, 3, or 4, and those of course can be paired on and on. These were powered by 6-cylinder diesel engines and had gearboxes as well, and they were pretty damn fun to operate. Now, I really enjoyed these in Northern Transpennine and Train Sim World years of old. They were fun, but they were a bit janky in the way that you controlled them. Well, this thing has had a major overhaul for the route. I don't know if it's going to apply to routes in the past that it may have come with. It will, at least for this as well. But we're on the Morecambe branch. It's fairly short. It's got 2 stations and it goes to Lancaster. Terminates on the Seaside Promenade, which we're currently at. It's got a now removed and defunct theme park off to the side. You can see that Ferris wheel there. The Morecambe signal box down the road, which we'll see here just in a minute. The Midlands, or the Midland, it's not plural, idiot. Talking to myself, by the way. Midland Hotel, built by the LMS Railway in 1933, and a 900-foot long pier built in the mid-1800s, which of course is now gone as well. But we'll just do a quick little run from Morecambe, right on the sea here. So this is right on the bay. It's part of the Irish Sea. But those unaware with the 101, I'm sure there's fantastic documentation and other videos out there if you'd like to learn how to drive it. Again, that is all dictated within the manual that Just Trains themselves provides. But I wanted to check this thing out because it got a massive overhaul. It got very bigly updates. We got new audio, cab texture updates, new exhaust effects, all kinds of stuff. New destinations added to the roller blind. Whereas before, like one of the big things, the interior of the cab, the windows had sort of like a wood trim. Now that is gone. It's more of like an enamel or plastic or something like that now. But one of the biggest things they have done is fix the actual controls or operations so they don't feel as kind of sticky or a pain in the backside as they did before. There's the old theme park there with the roller coaster and Ferris wheel. It's kind of like a little Blackpool all on its own. The pier in the distance, I think that's a bit of a lighthouse there. That is actually the old hotel, the white bit there, built in the 30s. Just a cool little area. And I mean, this is just one tiny corner of this entire add-on. The station itself looks fantastic. There's a reason it looks this damn good. They have been working on this route for probably the better part of a year. Whereas Dovetail Games in-house, they have to keep crapping these routes out to keep making money, to keep paying for their 7,428 employees that they probably don't need in certain positions that are probably not necessary. They could take the time to do stuff like this. I mean, hell, they have a massive staff. Meanwhile, Just Trains has like 6 people. But it just makes you wonder. But anyway, thankfully we do have third-party developers that make things like this, because for the most part, I don't really care about Train Sim World anymore until we get stuff like this. And we got something coming from Alan Thompson Sim. We got Union Workshop bringing the Tadami line to Japan. A lot of good stuff, possible good stuff on the menu. Anyway, here you can see me kind of being an idiot because I thought I turned the control circuit key. It's kind of like your master key Down there on the bottom right, I'm trying every switch and button I can think of like a massive dingus. And then, oh, there we go. I swear I turned that on before, but I digress. Here we go. So it's like a manual car or a you know, a four-wheeler, an ATV, a dirt bike, motorcycle, whatever. It has gears. You got to go through the gears. You got to let it rev down to get into the other gear, so on and so forth. Again, this is not meant to be a tutorial how to operate this thing. It's just another fun piece of rolling stock that actually exists within the game, like the Class 87. It's you know, it's not really meant for the feeble-minded. You've actually got to think about what you're doing. You don't just sit in and hit a button or put it in a gear and, you know, go to the next stop. Oh, me like train, you know, something like that. You actually gotta do things, you know what I mean? And this displays that very, very well. It's fun to operate. It's got 4 gears. I think it's got 4 power notches, and then it's got 4 gears. I generally try to start in second just because I'll go through the first gear fairly quick, and then like an ignorant person, I noticed this very lovely looking signal box on the right, so these poor people in the back of the train get introduced to the seat in front of them with their face as I hop out and take a look. So this is just one. Again, this is, I didn't even really scratch the surface with this video. Again, apologies, I just didn't want it to be like 10 hours long. But there are so many old signal boxes and junction boxes like this on the route. There's probably got to be 24, possibly. Not only that, but old you know, railway crew quarters and things like that. It's just, this route, if it's got one thing, it's got character and originality just oozing out of its ear holes, if an add-on had ear holes, if that makes any sense. And the custom assets, everywhere you look, this route has got custom assets. Sadly, you can't you know, finagle with the actual junctions or the switches, the levers themselves, which is probably a good thing, and it's the way the game runs and simulgraph and all that. You got your high-vis jackets there and your heater. But that's just one of 2 towers or junction boxes that are on the route, or this little branch line as a whole. It's just, I'm still in awe of how crazy good this add-on is. I cannot say it enough. Like, you know, it needs to be climbed to a rooftop and screamed at the top of your lungs. You can see the old semaphore signals there as well, which kind of adorn the route. There's another spot that I kind of glazed over as well that I wish I hadn't in hindsight, about halfway up the route, that is like a massive train heritage area. It's like a base of operations. It's at an old junction, and it's frigging massive. It's got old coal towers, turntable, you name it. The place is absolutely massive. The name eludes me at the moment, but straight ahead, just a couple of miles, is where this line actually stops and merges onto the West Coast Mainline, and then kind of south into Lancaster itself. Here we go, running through the gears now. So the dial right before you on the right hand side, that's kind of like your RPMs, and you definitely don't want to get that needle all the way to the right. I don't know if anything will happen in the game. It would be cool if it did. But you can mess up. Like if you don't let the revs or the RPMs slow, or at least it was like this on the Northern Trans-Pennine add-on years and years ago, you would kind of have to restart. So you want to let the RPMs fall all the way to the bottom. 0 RPM, obviously, before you switch to the next gear. But in most cases, unless you're starting up a heavy grade, and these things weren't super heavy to begin with, you can probably start in second gear for just a bit smoother of an action. But this right up ahead is Bear Lane. So we've got Morecambe, which we just left. Bear Lane is right up here. Really only 2 station stops on this quaint little branch line. But it just has character. I mean, The main thing with me with a lot of routes in Train Sim World is the tracks themselves, the right of way, the maintenance of way, and just how kind of clean and doctored everything seems to look in Train Sim World. That is not the case on this route. You've got weeds growing right up to the rail bed, and in the rail bed they took liberties with vegetation overall and added a ton of vegetation and mixed it. And from what I can tell, it does not hamper frames at all. That was, like I said a moment ago, or probably 20 moments ago, that was one of the big things I was worried about. Okay, 90 miles, you're in a high-speed train. The scenery can't be that great, right? I was wrong as hell, and I'm happy to admit it. The scenery is fantastic. This is, again, by and large, the best looking thing that you can get for Train Sim World right now, whether you're into German, North American, you know, stuff from the UK, what have you. But this is Bear Lane. That was another junction box that we just passed back there. But holy crap, just trains cooked on this one. And I absolutely cannot wait to see what they do next. I hope we see something more modern. You know, I understand the kind of BR and the BR Blue era. You can take more liberties. You can kind of get away with a lot more things, although it may be difficult to find information and whatnot. But kind of, you know, it's kind of like how Dovetail has a problem with American freight, you know, class 1 freight roads. They're just not really willing to work with them for the most part, so it's difficult to get good material to make a good DLC. So I don't know if that's the same for this. Like there was a whole snafu with West Coast Mainline South and the branding or lack thereof on the Pendolino. But I do love some of the older era stuff like this as well. It's really, really fun to see. I can't recommend this enough. This is absolutely badass. JT need to have a big pizza party and celebrate the success of this, because this is probably going to be one of the best selling add-ons for Train Sim World and Train Sim World history. And if it isn't, people are insane, because this is amazing. It runs fantastically. You've got amazing rolling stock that comes with it, a fantastic timetable. It layers with a ton of rolling stock, and the route looks amazing. Absolutely amazing. And on that note, I will leave you here. If you made it this far, as usual, thanks for watching. I tried to condense it just to kind of show the route as a whole, but hopefully we will catch you on the next one. I do know I am going to continue playing the bejesus out of this route, because it's one of those routes. It's got legs. It's got very, very long legs. But I'll leave it there. Take care, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.